Hello everyone, this is Aditya Managapati, and in this session you are going to learn the following topics. What is Agile process? What is Scrum? What's wrong with the traditional project management approaches? Why every company is behind the new process like Agile process and the Scrum model? And Scrum process in detail, terminology like product owner, Scrum master, team, product backlog, sprint planning 1, sprint planning 2, sprint backlog, sprint, daily scrum meeting or stand-up meeting, review, retrospective. So let's try to understand in detail what is Agile. So Agile movement proposes alternatives to the traditional project management approach. So there are so many project management approaches are there. SDLCs were there earlier. So software development life cycles were there. So this is an alternative approach, or uh, actually it is going to the major alternative to the all other software development life cycles which are already available in the market. So wherever the business works unpredictably, wherever there are so many changes in the regular application, or the requirements are changing on a daily basis, I mean weekly basis or daily basis, in such cases this is the best model to use. Previously in the software development lifecycle, say waterfall model, if you consider, once something changes, one requirement comes, so that requirement will be implemented within some point of time, and that requirement is going to be stable at least for a couple of years. But now if you see any kind of application, the requirements are dynamic, daily, regularly the requirements are changing. And that too, if you take any online shopping applications like Amazon or most of the applications, so daily you see some kind of changes in those applications. Such kind of changes are available, such kind of dynamism came into projects right now. In such cases, the old models like SDA waterfall model or V model or evolutionary prototyping model, these kind of models doesn't work. So that's the reason experts came up with the model called Agile here. Okay, so someone has a question. Let me just check. Okay. So what is Scrum? Scrum is one of the model to implement the Agile process. So there are several models are there, but Scrum became very popular. So to implement Agile, we will be using a model called Scrum. And Scrum has different roles. So here, along with the process, you have to remember some kind of technical terms also, or terminology as well, like product owner, team, Scrum master. So also in Scrum meeting, we'll have different meetings will be there, like backlog grooming, sprint planning, daily Scrum meeting, sprint review meeting, and sprint retrospective. In all other models, whatever you have learned till now, like SDLC or V model or Spiral, whatever you see, there you do not have many meetings. Also, the process itself is going to be completely different here. So here, the team members' involvement will be more. In other models, the management involvement will be more. So it is helpful for the team members mostly, and it is going to help them in doing their activities in very easy way without having much pressure. Also, user also will have a lot of advantages in this particular model because we will be interacting with the end users regularly. Whenever we develop something, immediately we will go and show this particular functionality to the end user and we will get the feedback. For that reason, even it will be very much helpful for the end users as well. So what's wrong with the traditional approaches? Why we are going behind these new models? So the waterfall model was there in the market for so many years, but still we came up with this, experts came up with this model. That was a proven model, but why again this new model has come? In waterfall model, what is going to happen? Assume that you have 12 months time. So in the month of January, the end user has given or the client has given the requirements. Okay, just assume that in the month of January, the requirements are given in 2020. So all the requirements, then they told that within 12 months I need the project. Fine, everything is good. So the company, the project company has agreed for that, and they took the requirements and they came back and they started development. So what happened? They did not. So within this 12 months time, they started developing the application. They have completed the planning, they have completed the design, they have completed the coding, and they have completed the testing. And at the end of 2020, that is in December month, they have delivered the application to the end user. So they took almost 12 months. In between, not even single time, they did not show the application to the end users. Also, within this 12 months time, there is a high possibility that the end user requirement itself might be changing. So whenever there is a requirement change, if you can adopt that change, that will be more helpful instead of using the old functionality again. But this waterfall model doesn't support that. So the basic disadvantages are end user will not be involving in the development area or development. So he will not be showed any application during the development. He will give the requirements. At the end, they will give the application. That is after 12 months or maybe 15 months. It might be after so much time. But in the other models, I mean in Scrum model, that is not the case. So due to this, the experts had to look for other models. And if the requirements are changed, as there is no communication between the client and the development company, so whatever the application the development company is giving at the end, they have to adjust with that. Again, if any changes are required, they have to come back and they have to ask. Again, this case will take another 6 months time. So due to that, the time delay is going to happen. The application is not going to be useful completely, and there are so many other issues out there. So these are the different reasons why they came up with this Agile process. All right, any questions? First, I will explain you everything in detail. Then we will talk about, yeah, you can ask me questions. So I will explain you this this Scrum model with the help of this small diagram here. So this is the diagram, and these are the different terminology which you have to remember, and I will explain you in the same flow. So whatever the questions you have, kindly note on them. At the end, I will answer all those questions in one shot. Otherwise, it will be confusing if you miss or if you ask so many questions in between. The flow will be disconnected and it will be difficult to understand. I will complete one flow. During this process, if you have any questions, kindly note on them. At the end, I will answer. So here in this particular model, the product owner is responsible for collecting the product backlog from different sources. So product owner is a front face for the end users or a representative of end users. So what he does, he will talk to the end users, customers, teams, and other stakeholders, whoever is responsible for that particular project. Then he will be collecting all the requirements. After collecting all the requirements, he will be keeping those requirements in the priority order. So priority in the sense, there he might be collecting hundreds of requirements, but out of 100, which requirement needs to be developed first and which requirement needs to be developed later, that list he will be identifying here. So that list of requirements we are going to call here as product backlog. So this is called product backlog. And here we are not going to call these requirements, the requirements has a different name here. We will be calling them as user story. So from here onwards, I will be using these requirements and username simultaneously until it registers in your mind. In all other models, we will be calling them as requirements, but here we will be calling them as user stories. So who is going to collect them? The product owner. And after collecting everything, the list of user stories or requirements will be called as product backlog. So once the product backlog is ready, then the team is responsible for planning. The team will be having two levels of meeting here. One is sprint planning one, and the other one is sprint planning two. So why the team is going to do the planning? In other models, the project manager was responsible for doing the project planning. So he will check the requirements given by the BA, and based on his knowledge, based on his experience, he will be giving the estimation. Due to that, there were so many problems. So he might be the project manager might be having too much knowledge. He is a very intelligent. He has so many years of experience in development. So in such cases, he will be thinking in his way, and then he will be giving the estimation, and he will be doing the planning. So it will cause problem because in that team, everyone will not be having same level of knowledge levels. Due to that, if the estimation is small, then the team members had to suffer a lot. The second situation, the project manager might not be having any technical knowledge. So still he had given a requirement. Again, who is going to suffer? The team members itself. So because of not proper planning, they might not be having sufficient time for development and testing. So due to that, at the end, again, the development team or testing team has to sit day and night, and they have to test. They have to develop and test the application. So which is another major problem. So that's why if you might have heard about the software development companies all these days. So they will be working day and night. Few people will go in the morning and they will work till the midnight and they'll come back. So all this because of not proper planning. So to avoid this problem, here in this particular model, the team members itself will be doing the planning. So how they do it? Also, each and every team member in the team is going to involve in the planning. It's not like only one person or only one project manager. No. So every team member in the team is going to be involving in this planning. So normally here you will have two levels of meeting will be conducted. One is sprint planning one and the other one is sprint planning two. In sprint planning one, all the team members will sit together in a room like testers, developers, the scrum master, product owner, everyone will sit into a room and the product owner will explain one by one requirement from the top based on the priority, and based on that the team members are going to do the estimation. So first step, they will understand the requirement told by the product owner, and during that time if anyone has any kind of clarifications related to that particular user story or a requirement, immediately they will question the product owner. So this is fine, but I did not understand the complete process. Could you please let me know some more information? So he will explain. Suppose if the product owner itself is not clear, in such cases that particular user story will be moved back, and then later he will get the information and update the information. Once again, in the upcoming sprints, it will be taken. So here the product owner is going to explain each and every requirement in detail. So he will pick one by one requirement from the top, and then once he explains it, if the team has any questions, they will get the clarification immediately from the product owner. Else they will go for estimation. So here each and every team member will be giving the estimation according to their knowledge levels, according to their experience. So for example, there are 6 team members are there in that particular project, and all 6 team members will be sitting in a room. And in that 6 team members, out of 6 team members, maybe 4 are testers, 4 are developers, and 2 are testers. Now, every team member in that group has to give the estimation by understanding that requirement. For example, for the first requirement, for the first developer told that, okay, to develop this particular functionality, I need 10 hours time. The other person has said, the second person has said, I need 15 hours. One more person said, I need only 5 hours. The other person said, I need 20 hours. Now, all the people did not give the same number of hours here. So based on their knowledge, they have given it. So we cannot say you're wrong or you're right. Now what should happen? How can we finalize how many hours we have to take? For that reason, the person whoever has given 5 hours and the person whoever has given 20 hours, both has to explain why it is going to take very less time and why it is going to take huge time, say 20 hours. Now the person whoever has given 20 hours may say that, okay, I am new to this project, I don't know anything, I am assuming that I have to develop everything from the scratch, so that is the reason it is going to take at least this minimum time. Fine. The other person whoever has given 5 hours time, he will say that no, most of the functionality are already developed, you have to add some additional features to it, and it doesn't take much time to do that particular activity. 5 hours is more than enough, including testing. So this conversation will be listening by other team members also in that particular room. If they have any inputs, that inputs they will give it to the other team members. So at the end of one round of discussion, everyone will have the same level of knowledge. That means what is already exist, what is not there. So what is the complexity of that particular requirement? So that because of this discussion, everyone will have that. Then they will go for one more round of estimation. So this time, everyone might be giving the similar numbers, say 8 hours or 9 hours or 6 hours, something like that. If the numbers are very nearby, then they will choose the highest number and they will fix it. Most of the times, they will also give exact number like 5 hours, 5 hours, 5 hours. In such cases, there is no problem at all. They will fix to that and they will finalize that. So this is what is going to happen as part of sprint planning work. How many user stories they are going to take? So it depends on the number of number of people available, the number of resources available, and number of days available. For example, in a particular team, assume that there are 8 developers are there, or say 5 developers or 8 developers, and each person has 8 days time, and per day 8 hours. So I will take instead of 8, I will take 5 resources per day, 8 hours, and they have 7 days time in the sprint. So that means how many total, how many hours are there? 5 into 8, 40, 40 into 7. So 280 hours. Until they reach 280 hours duration, they will be picking the user stories from this backlog. It's not like first they'll take everything and then they will remove something. No. So based on the number of hours available, sometimes what will happen, out of these 5 people, maybe one person might be on leave. In such cases, that person amount of hours will be removed from this list. So out of 280, one person is removed, means almost 40 hours will be removed. So only 240 hours will be considered for estimation. But previously in waterfall model, that was not the case. In waterfall model, what was happening? So once they decide the duration, once they decide the hours, there was no way you can change that. So until the project is completed. But here it is very flexible according to the development team or testing team estimation, it is going to run. So they will have a lot of flexibility. They need not to stretch and work. They have to, because of the proper planning. So once the sprint planning one is over, the sprint planning 2 starts. So in sprint planning 2, what is going to happen? What is the basic thing they are going to do? Whatever the user stories they have identified as part of sprint planning 1, for that particular user stories, they will be identifying the subtasks. For example, so they assume that they took 4 or 5 user stories. The first user story is login with correct credentials. This is one user story. Second, search functionality. And third one, maybe something else, right? So like this, they have selected almost 3 to 5 user stories. To develop these particular user stories are requirement. What activities the testing team and development team has to do. So normally testing team has to do, so development team has to do, what development team has to do is they have to understand the requirement first. They have to prepare the high level design. This is one subtask. Then they have to do the coding, and then they have to do the unit testing. So whenever the development is done, then they have to perform all this unit testing activity. So once the unit testing is done, the application will come to the testing team. What testing team has to do? What are the subtasks they have to perform? So the testing team is responsible for writing the test cases, executing the test cases, and reporting the defects. So these are the subtasks. Like this, for every user story, this particular activities, the subtask is going to be identified. So like yeah, so that is the second task which is going to happen as part of sprint planning 2. Planning 1 is just for estimation purpose, how much time it is going to take to develop each requirement or user story, and sprint planning 2 is for identifying the subtask. If you can identify the subtask in the beginning itself, during the development, there is not going to be any problem. So there will not be any confusion available for the developers. So they can directly pick one task. Sometimes multiple people can work on the same user story. So one person might be developing the code and the other person might be writing the high level design, or someone will be doing the unit testing. So something like that parallelly also we can perform some activities. If you don't add subtasks, only one person maximum can work on that, and that is going to take huge time for development. So that is the reason this is how it is planned. So once the planning 1 and planning 2 is over, the next step is going to be sprint backlog. So assume that in the product backlog you have 100 requirements are there, or user stories are available, and in sprint backlog after planning they have selected only 10 requirements. That 10 requirements we are going to call here as sprint backlog. Once the sprint backlog is ready, then the sprint is going to start. What is sprint? Someone was asking me before, what is sprint? Sprint is nothing but it's just a duration. So it can be 2 weeks, or it can be 3 weeks, or it can be 4 weeks, or it can be customized also. But once for the first sprint, the duration is decided. It is not going to change again and again. So whatever the duration we are going to choose here, the duration is going to be stable until the product backlog is done. For example, so in the first sprint, assume that the duration is selected at 2 weeks, and they have developed around, they took around 10 requirements. So to complete the backlog with the 2 weeks duration, they need around 10 sprints. So they can plan properly. So if you change the sprint duration regularly, for one sprint 2 weeks, for the other sprint 3 weeks, you cannot estimate how much time it is going to take to complete this project. For that reason, we have to do the we have to fix this particular thing whenever it is required. I mean, in the beginning itself. So the ideal duration for sprint is going to be 2 weeks. So very less teams or companies will take one week as a duration, and yeah, 3 weeks also fine. 2 weeks and 3 weeks will be fine, but 4 weeks will be more, because at the end of every sprint, we will be showing the application to the end user and we will be getting the feedback from them. So that feedback you will be missing. If you have so much duration, maybe 4 weeks or 5 weeks, so it will be too late. After 5 weeks, if you go to the end user and if you show the functionality to the end user, and if the end user says so many changes, then it is very difficult to implement. But if it is a 2 weeks time, so it is not going to be much. Maybe one or two changes he may suggest that you can take it in the next sprint and immediately you can fix it. But within 5 days, you might be developing 50 functionalities. Out of 50, they might have selected, I mean, they might have told around 10 changes. Then to do that 10 changes itself, it will take huge time. So that's the reason less duration is the best. So sprint is nothing but it's just a duration. During the sprint, different things are going to happen normally. The first thing is the daily scrum meeting. It is also called a stand-up meeting. In this particular meeting, all the testers, developers, scrum master, and yeah, so these three groups of people will, sometimes the product owner as well. So product owner also will be standing together along with the team members, and they will discuss. I mean, each team member has to tell that what they have done yesterday and what they are planning to do today, and what are the different challenges they are facing during the development. So this is required to know or give the information to all the other team members. So every person has to give it. Because of that, two things are going to happen. One is everyone will know what other person is doing, and there is no way the people can escape from the work. Also, if any person is facing any problem, whenever he says that problem to the team members, then they might be getting the solution immediately. So because of these three reasons, or because of this actual reasons, so this scrum meeting or stand-up meeting became very popular, and it is going to be conducted on daily basis at a fixed time. So it is not going to take more than 15 minutes time. So everyone has to give the updates quickly, and they should go back to their work. So this Scrum team or this stand-up meeting will be headed by the Scrum Master. Scrum Master is like a facilitator who will take care of the team's activities. So if they have any kind of impediments in the sense while working on that particular application, there is a blocker which is not allowing him to continue further. So they have to inform to the Scrum Master. Behalf of the team, Scrum Master will take care. So he is like a facilitator in any aspect. If any kind of help is required, and he will be giving the guidance, he will be giving the help. So in such a way, he will be taking care of the team. So during the sprint, the product backlog refinement is going to happen. So once you take some user stories into the sprint, then that list of the requirements are not going to be changed until the complete sprint is done. For example, they took 10 requirements into the sprint. So during the sprint, that 10 requirements are not going to be changed at all. So well, if any changes are required, either before the sprint or after the sprint, it should be done. So suddenly if someone comes, I will just push one more requirement into the sprint. No, it is not going to accept. The model itself is not going to accept. So during this period, what else can be done is the product backlog refinement is going to happen, which will be taken care by the product owner again. So what does that mean by product backlog refinement? So in this product backlog, whatever the requirements, the left out requirements are there. So the product owner will go through them along with the end users or the clients, and based on their information, either they will be adding more requirements or they will be removing some of the requirements here. So or they might be adding some additional information to the existing requirements, etc. So this is called product backlog refinement. So this is the continuous process. It's not like one-time process, because we don't know when the end user requirement is going to change. In waterfall model, once the requirements are frozen, there is no way you can change. But here, a regular basis, the inputs will be taken from the end users. Accordingly, the requirements will be changed. Suppose last month you have developed one requirement. Next month it is changed. Yes, there is a possibility to change it immediately again. So such a flexibility this model is going to give. So once the 3 weeks or 2 weeks are over, at the end, there will be a meeting conducted called review meeting. In this review meeting, all the testers, developers, scrum masters, and along with them, the end user or client is also going to join. So for the end user, one of the team member is going to give the demo. Whatever the functionalities they have developed during the sprint in the last 2 weeks time, all these functionalities are going to be showed to the end user. After showing them, if the end user is happy with the development part, no problem at all. Sometimes he might be giving some kind of suggestions. Suppose you have developed 10 requirements. So after seeing the demo for all the 10 requirements, the end user may say that, okay, these 10 requirements are good. The development is good, but out of 10 requirements for this, for the ninth requirement, you have to make some changes. Yes, the team will accept that. It's not like they will not go and say, no, I will not develop anything. So they will accept that, and they will, whatever the user story is not accepted by the end user, that particular user story will go and sit on top of the product backlog again. So here, sorry. So whatever is not accepted, that user story will go and sit on top of the backlog. So this is one situation. So actually during the sprint, the development team has developed all the 10 requirements, but out of that, one of the requirement was not accepted by the end user. Only that requirement will go and sit on top of the product backlog. There is another situation where some requirements will be moved to the backlog. The other situation is during the sprint, out of 10 requirements, the team could develop only 8 requirements due to the time availability or due to the complexity, etc. In such cases, only 8 requirements we will be showing it to the end user for review. Remaining 2 requirements will be moved back to the product backlog. So these requirements will be taken once again in the next sprint for development. So this is all about the part. So basically review means the team members are going to show the application to the end user and they will be taking the feedback from them. So the quick feedback, the immediate feedback is going to be more helpful. So if you develop something now and after 1 year, if you get the feedback, so there is no point in that, right? It is not going to help much. But whenever you develop something and whenever you show it to the end user, and then if you get the feedback immediately, that is going to be more helpful. For that reason, this review plays a very important role. So once the review is also over, there is one more meeting which will be conducted called retrospective. So here only testers, developers and scrum master is going to join. In this particular meeting, basically what is going to happen is the team members, the testers and developers. So during the sprint, whatever the problems they had faced and whatever the good things they have done, they will discuss and they will note it down. So the good things, whatever they have done, that is like a booster for them for the upcoming sprints. Also, they will identify the problems, whatever they had faced during the sprint, so that they can solve those problems in the upcoming sprints. So from there onwards, at least the sprint moves very smoothly. So that is the basic reason behind having this retrospective. So yeah, so this is all about the Scrum model and the Agile process. So guys, give me 1 minute, then I will take or I will answer all your questions. Only 1 minute, please. Yes. Any questions? If you have any questions, you can raise your hand. So there is already, I got one question. The question is, when team will take care of product backlog refinement after the sprint? After the sprint is over and in the beginning of the next sprint. So actually, it is going to happen during the sprint. So, and also the team members are not going to do that activity. That will be taken care by the product owner, because the product owner will be interacting with the end users. So based on their inputs, based on the requirements, whatever they are giving, so the product owner is going to change the product backlog. So initially they might have added some requirements. After a month or after 2 months, the end user or client came back and say that no, out of these 120 are not valid, please remove them and add these requirements, or whatever the requirement we had given that is not correct, so kindly make some changes to that existing requirement. So such kind of sessions will be coming from the end users. Accordingly, the product owner is going to refine it. And also sometimes he might be changing the priority of the requirements or user stories as well. Sometimes one of the requirement is there in the product backlog, bottom of the product backlog. Then the end user has requested to bring it up. Then yes, immediately the product owner does. In the next sprint itself, it is going to be implemented. So this is the process. Next, okay. Who participates in retrospective meetings? In retrospective meeting, developers, testers, and Scrum Master. So these are the three people who will be joining them. Retrospective is done in every sprint and the product owner will be there in the meet. No, product owner is not going to be there in the meeting. So it is going to happen at the end of every sprint to find out what went well, what went wrong. So what went well means they might have developed a lot of user stories even within the less time. So one of the team member has implemented a functionality which is very complex. So these kind of things will boost them. It is going to help them to, they may feel that, okay, I can achieve, I can do this. So such kind of feeling it is going to give to the team members. So that's the reason they will identify the positive points. So what went wrong? So the testing team did not get the application on time for testing. So we have around 14 days time available, 2 weeks time available, but only on the 12th day they have received the application for testing. Within 2 days, how the testing team can test it? It's a wrong point. The other situation, so they might be saying that, okay, so there is an application. One of the requirement is not clarified completely. Even after after asking the clarification from to the product owner, he took a lot of time. Until the last day, they did not get the clarification. That is one thing. Sometimes the application will be down. It is not available for the testing team members. So that is another problem. So these kind of problems should not be there once the sprint starts. So they will identify such kind of pain points, and in the upcoming sprints, they will try to identify the solution and they will try to fix it. So this is how the sprint is going to work. I mean, the retrospective is going to work. Sorry. So what is the role of PA in Scrum? Since the PO is one of the taking requirements. In many companies, what is going to happen, wherever the existing BAs are there, so they will be playing the role of PO, product owner. So they will be directly interacting with the end users and they will be getting the information. So it is not going to be replaced. So they will be doing that activity again. So what is the role of BA here? Yeah, as I said, wherever already BA role is existing, then they will be moved to be as a product owner. So they will be interacting with the end users and then they will be collecting the requirements and they will take care of all the activities. As a sprint is going to be a small team, so it will have around 7 to 8 requirements. Eight people will be there in the Scrum. So the BA, only one product owner will be there. It's not like group of people. They are not going to collect all the requirements in one shot. But there is a possibility that within one project, you will have multiple Scrum teams. In such cases, for each Scrum team, there will be one product owner and one scrum master. So that is company's wish or the project wish, how they want to have number of teams in that particular group. So what if scrum master is not there? Then who plays that role? So definitely the scrum master will be there. Maybe because of some reason, 1 or 2 days if he is not available, one of the team members, senior team member will play that role. Is it clear? Is a scrum master also called as test lead? No. Scrum master is one level higher. So he's like just like a facilitator to all the team members. Not only for the testing, he will be helping the development team members as well. So if the team members are facing any kind of issues, instead of they waste their time to solve the issue, they will just inform it to the scrum master and he will be taking care of it along with all the scrum ceremonies. That means that he will be conducting the planning 1 and planning 2 meetings. He will be arranging the he will be managing the daily scrum meeting, and he will be tracking the daily activities, the team activities, etc. So that is his role. Mostly he will not be directly involving in the development, but he will be having the technical knowledge and he will be able to solve the technical issues. So his responsibility is to manage the team. So if the test case fail, I will inform to the scrum master instead of test lead. No, Nafjat. So that is not related to so the testing process is going to be same. It is not going to change. If you face any kind of failure or if you have any kind of defect, then immediately you have to report it to the developer, not to the scrum master. So there will be a tool. So you have to just go and report that tool, information in that tool. That tool is going to be taken care, and that will be redirected to the concerned person. That person will fix it. Again, he will update the status and it will come back to you. So Scrum Master is not responsible for that particular activity. Yes, Padma.
Hi Aditya, I had a couple of questions.
Yeah.
First, I wanted to ask how do you read the requirements in Agile? I mean, do you get a document or folder or stuff? How do you get the requirements, or how do you the user stories, like you say? How do you read
So
it? Or
product owner is going to collect the requirements and he will be documenting that information in one of the tool. So currently JIRA is a very popular tool. So most of the companies are using JIRA, or if they don't have JIRA, they might be using some other tool. But all the requirements will be kept in that particular tool, documented in that particular tool. And from there, the team members will pick up requirements and they will be working on it. It's not like they will be taking, the team will be picking everything from that product backlog. No. So whatever are prioritized by the product owner, and that too from the top, they will be picking that requirements and then they will be working on it. So that's the process.
okay, I had one more question.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's okay. While the development team is working on developing a build and stuff, what will the testing team be doing? Because without the build, how do you know exactly um, what test cases to write in particular and things like
So
that?
the testing team is not going to depend on the development team
Hmm.
for writing the test cases. So every time as a tester, you have to look into the requirement. Based on that requirement, you should write the test cases. Only thing you will not be able to do in the initial phase is testing activity, because the testing team and development team will start the work at the same time. So you will be writing the test cases as a tester and developer will be developing the code for that particular requirement. So by the time the developer develops the application, the testing team is also ready with the requirement, I mean, test cases. Then they will open the application and they will test it. That's how it is.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from anyone? If you do not have any questions, then we will go ahead and install a tool, register for a tool called JIRA. So I'll help you in that. Okay, I got one more. Yes, please.
Yes. So, what is the role of a BA in a Scrum since the product owner is the one that takes the requirement, or user stories?
So whenever the project starts, assume that in that particular group, there is a BA. So now the BA itself will be playing the product owner role. So because we are coming from the waterfall model and from the old models,